welcome to our Indies Roadshow for 2020. I'm Ben James, Director of University of Queensland Press and convener of the Independent Publishers Committee at the APA. I acknowledge the traditional owners and their custodianship of the lands on which we meet and pay my respects to their ancestors and their descendants. Well, it's an extraordinary year for all of us in the book industry, with lots of new opportunities and lots of new challenges. And for publishers, particularly small independent publishers, one of those challenges has been in promoting our forthcoming titles. So, our communication and promotional channels have been more limited, and that's really the reason why the Independent Publishers Committee, with the support of Australia Reads, is hosting this virtual roadshow. It's really with a view to joining forces with our indie colleagues across the country to highlight not only the best books that are coming up for summer, but also to champion our 2021 titles, our major 2021 titles. So you'll find some amazing books here, and our hope really is that we are making it easier for you to read and to review, to recommend, and to buy local indie books. And to our booksellers and to our librarians and reviewers that are watching, welcome. And reading copies are available for many of the following titles by emailing office@publishers.asn.au, office@publishers.asn.au. So thanks so much for your support. Let's kick it off with Magabala Books in Broome.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Enid.
And we are from Magabala Books in Broome. Hello to all our booksellers, librarians and readers out there. We would like to talk to you about our 3 titles for our Christmas list. They are all by first-time creators.
The first book we would like to present is Shirley Purdy, My Story. This is a children's picture book by one of Australia's most respected, award-winning Aboriginal artists, Shirley Purdy. Her artwork from this book is hanging in the National Portrait Gallery in Canberra. Shirley works with Woman Arts Centre, and her artwork is well respected across Australia and overseas. This is a very special book to me and my family, as Shirley is my auntie. I call her Mum Anna. Her book means a lot to us, and we are very proud. In this book, Mum Anna tells us about where she was born, about her mum's country, Balawa, about growing up on Mabel Downs Station, and how she became a famous artist. Mum Anna's artwork is all painted in natural ochre, and on each page you can see the beautiful texture of her paintings. This book is written in English and Gija language. I was born at Mabel Downs. We call that place Gilman. My dreaming is echidna dreaming and fire dreaming. My father looked into the fire and saw an echidna. That's why.
This is I Want to Be a Superhero by Brianna Humes and illustrated by Amblin Kwai-Molyneux. It's out in November. Brianna wrote this story when she was just 8 years old. It's based on a true story about a little girl who wants to fly and be a superhero.
This happy book is all about celebrating our everyday superheroes, from nurses to doctors to vets, everyone who's helped us through a really weird 2020. So we hope you enjoy it as much as we do.
My name is Brianna and I want to be a superhero. I want to be a special superhero.
Marbidi is our November release, and it is an anthology edited by Alfie Shiosaki and Linda Martin. Alfie is a Yawuru Noongar woman, so from Western Australia, and Linda has been in publishing for a really, really long time. So this anthology is prose, fiction, poetry, with very young, between on the cusp of adulthood, Indigenous writers from Western Australia. So this new black writing comes with a foreword from Kim Scott, and Marbidi is Noongar for handwriting. So it has the energy behind it to talk to different forms of writing from exceptionally talented and wonderful young writers.
Thanks for supporting our creators and our books.
We are changing the world one story at a time.
Hello, I'm Ivor Indyk. I'm the publisher at Giramondo Publishing Company. We're a literary publisher and we specialise in fiction, poetry and non-fiction. Some of the writers that we've published you probably know about: Gerald Murnane, Alexis Wright, Brian Castro, Judy Beveridge. The three books I want to mention to you that we're bringing out in the next few months are, first of all, The F-Team, by a young adult novel by the young Lebanese-Australian writer from Western Sydney called Rawa Aja. The book is about a group of boys of Lebanese, Australian and Pacific Island background who've been asked by their headmaster to form a team and to enter a competition to redeem the fortunes of the reputation of the school, which has been tarnished in the press with its tales of thuggery and hooliganism. The only problem is that they have to join with a similar group of white boys from Cronulla in the team. Cronulla is otherwise known as enemy territory, and so the task really tests their sense of identity and community and their willingness to reach out to others across cultural boundaries. On top of that, their leader, Tariq, has fallen heavily for a new young girl in the neighbourhood called Jamila, and so he's having to negotiate the shoals of romance at the same time as deal with conflicts within his own family. Rawa Aja was very concerned as a teacher herself that the book should be read and appreciated by young boys. She was very aware that they weren't reading, and so it's partly intended for them, partly also to bring into young Australian fiction figures that she didn't find there herself when she was growing up. I quote what she's written about the book: "Not only was a Muslim woman rare to find, in print people like me were demonised and our stories hijacked. I wanted to create a story that any child of a minority would feel proud of and know they matter." Although, the book deals with serious social issues and questions of male anger and responsibility, it handles these very lightly in a really sympathetic way and with a great sense of humour, particularly in its portraits of the extended family. The second book I wanted to bring to your attention is Beverly Farmer's A Body of Water. This is a new edition of a classic which was first published in 1990 and was hailed for its unique mixing of genres, journal, memoir, fiction, poetry, which opened up new frontiers for Australian writing. Beverly Farmer died in 2018, so we're bringing this edition back really after 30 years because if anything, it's become more relevant in time with young writers following this path in their own writing recently. It takes place over a year, and it begins on the author's 46th birthday in a period of loneliness because her marriage has broken down and she's living on her own. At the end of the 12-month cycle of writing, the work is complete. A mosaic which includes short stories and poems, essays, spiritual meditations, journal entries, quotations from favourite authors, and above all else, really finely detailed observations of the book's settings along the Bellarine Peninsula in southern Victoria, with its bays, the outer harbour, and the lighthouse standing like a sentinel at the entrance to the ocean. Fiona Wright describes A Body of Water as, quote, a bold, beautiful, genre-defying book. And I think that is an accurate description of its achievement. Beverly Farmer is now recognised, I think, as one of the great pioneers of contemporary Australian women's writing. Was the author of 6 works of fiction, which were shortlisted or won literary awards, and she received the Patrick White Award for her contribution to Australian literature in 2008. We published 2 other books in this mixed mode, which came after A Body of Water, The Bone House and This Water, 5 Tales. And I think of the 3 of them with A Body of Water as constituting a trilogy or a triptych, if you like. The third book I would like to talk about is Fiona McGregor's Buried Not Dead, a collection of essays on performance art and particularly queer performance from its halcyon days in the 1990s and early 2000 to its latest practitioner. It features in-depth portraits of a marvellous gallery of artists and performers, writers, dancers, tattooists, DJs, some of them famous, like Marina Abramovich and Mike Parr, others like Latau Tamaopu, Greg Semu and Jiva Patipan, important for the ways in which they've brought Asian and South Pacific traditions of performance into our culture. Fiona came of age as an artist in performative queer culture during this period in a community that celebrated subversion, dissent and freedom of expression, but which also constantly had to deal with prejudice and oppression in the form of censorship and police actions to close them down. She's published 6 books, Fiona McGregor, including Indelible Ink, which won the Age Book of the Year award. Last year we published her extended photo essay, A Novel Idea, which might be considered a performance in book form. In fact, she is both a novelist, a writer. She is a writer and a performance artist, and her distinction is that she sees through an artist's eyes but records what she sees with a novelist's insight.
Hi, my name's Kirst and I'm the publisher at Pantera Press. I am thrilled to be talking to you today about 3 of our exciting non-fiction books from early 2021. It's All an Act is a memoir about sexuality, gender, and growing up fluid. It is poignant, it is thought-provoking, it's inspiring, and above all else, it's utterly charming from beginning to end. And it's written by Shane Jenick, who you might know better as drag queen superstar Courtney Act. Courtney has actually been in the public sphere now for over 2 decades. You probably saw her originally on Australian Idol in 2003, but since then she has exploded around the world. So she's been on Dancing with the Stars. She popped up twice this year on Neighbours, bringing Mardi Gras and Pride Week to Ramsay Street. She, of course, was on RuPaul's Drag Race, which really connected her with a wider audience of drag fans. And you might have seen her Australian story earlier this year as well. She has a really engaged online following. She's got 1.2 million followers on Instagram. She's got 500,000 on Facebook, on Twitter. She's got a bunch of YouTube followers as well. And I think the reason that she's built this audience is that people know now that they can come to her for content that's going to be really entertaining. It's always going to be a performance, but it's also going to be really socially aware and politically active. She's never afraid to ask the big questions. She's really big on critical thinking and on encouraging people to do the same. And I think that's the key for why I'm so excited about this memoir, is that Shane uses his own story of growing up in Brisbane, moving to Sydney, living in Oxford Street, really discovering himself during that time before going over and being part of this, what people are now calling the golden age of drag in LA as part of, RuPaul's sort of big scene that's created, and then really finding himself in London eventually. And throughout this story, so we follow his story, but at every spot along the way, Shane uses it as a chance to talk about some of the big issues and the different ways that he has come to understand his own gender, his own sexuality, the fact that that's been a journey along the way. And I think one of the key points in that was realizing that even though Courtney and Courtney Act started as exactly that, as an act to get him into the spotlight, at a certain point, Shane realized that he was living, dating, working, socializing as Courtney Act. And at a certain point, it became clear that she was much more to him than an act. She was a really big part of his gender identity. So it's really wonderful that we can follow this journey along with Shane along the way. This book is coming out next year in February alongside Mardi Gras. Shane always has a new show, and he'll be doing the same this year. Courtney always has appearances on the project, as a host on SBS, and we will be supporting this book release with a really massive campaign, publicity and marketing, and it'll be our biggest for the year. This is just such a profoundly thoughtful and thought-provoking memoir. And I really think that, Courtney and Shane are unique in many ways in the Australian scene. We're really looking forward to this bringing the same sort of conversations that, Claire Bowditch's book brought about body image, Osher brought about mental health. Really bringing those topics to the mainstream is what Courtney's passion is. And this time, I think we're all really ready to talk about sexuality, gender and identity. And this book is going to start a million conversations. So don't miss it. Darkness is Golden, a guide to personal transformation and facing life's messiness. So this is the very first book by psychologist Mary Huang, who is also the founder of the Indigo Project. The Indigo Project are an amazing psychological organisation in Sydney who have a radical approach to therapist vulnerability. They want to break down the barriers between the client and the therapist that have usually existed. And their advocacy is really changing the mental health landscape at the moment. Mary herself is really focused on the idea of bringing therapy to the 4 out of 5 people who aren't currently going through a mental health crisis, but still need support. And this book really encourages you to look into your deepest, darkest emotions and experiences. So we're talking about the heartbreaks, the failures, the difficult relationships that we've all had at one point or another in our lives, and looking at the emotional baggage that we collect over time. So Darkness is Golden as a concept encourages us to, rather than pushing these away and trying to pretend that they don't exist, which is sort of our natural tendency, it's to actually, look deep within those experiences and try to find the gold within them. And Mary takes you on a journey, chapter by chapter, to do that. This book is a really unique mix of practical exercises, and some of those include audio exercises and sonic embodiments as well, alongside insights that Mary has drawn from the therapist's chair over 10 years. And then also practicing that own sense of vulnerability. Mary brings her own storytelling to the book as well. So it really is a unique journey. It's a remarkable experience. I think that the closest comparison would be the experience of Sarah Wilson's First We Make the Beast Beautiful. There's also a really great creative link that I think ties it in and makes it perfect for readers of Big Magic, the Elizabeth Gilbert book as well. Mary has built a profile bringing exactly these sorts of experiences out of the therapy room and into the public. So she runs experiences and meditations, particularly for organizations like Facebook and Spotify. She also has an online workshop that is called Get Your Shit Together. And she's really building this new space for people to make mental health awareness part of their everyday life. This is a really powerful book. It's really profound. It's also very empowering. I think that it's going to connect with a lot of people. We all know this has been a very difficult year. It's been a year that a lot of us have been grieving for, potential futures that are no longer possible. And this book really approaches all of that head on and gives you the power. And I just think that Mary is such a rising star in the mental health space in Australia. I can't wait to share it with you all. The last book that I'd like to share with you is called Lead the Way, How to Change the World from a Teen Activist and School Striker. This is an inspiring step-by-step guide to activism written by a school striker, School Strikes for Climate organizer, Jean Hinchliffe. At age 16, Jean has already done a TED Talk. She's already gone to the UN Climate Summit. She has spoken at festivals all around the world. She was featured on Foreign Correspondent, but most importantly, she was one of the key organisers who brought together those incredible marches for climate change support last year. Jean got involved in activism herself when she went during the same-sex marriage plebiscite, when she decided that she needed to get involved and volunteered as part of that process. And she feels that she's learnt so much over the last couple of years that she really wants to give the practical tools and tricks to other teenagers. We all know that teenagers are incredible in trying to actively make structural change at the moment. They really are leading the way. And Jean is at the forefront of all of that. School Strikes for Climate reached over 300,000 people last year. And I think that's worth remembering when it comes to this book, as we know there's a really active audience. In many ways, protesting and standing up for what you believe in has become even more relevant this year. And this book is very relevant to, whatever cause it is that is really close to a person's heart. It's out in March and will also be supported by a really big publicity and marketing campaign. Jean is already going to speak at a bunch of literary festivals. And I think one of the things that's really important about this book is it's written for teens by a teenager as well. And it's just going to put so many practical tools into the hands of teens. So a couple of the things that you'll find within it are it shows people how to start organising within their own school. It shows teenagers how they might go about practically starting pamphleting an area. It helps them identify what their cause is and who the different stakeholders are in it. It shows them how to make steps to create a protest as well. It shows you practical things like how to write a media release, how to respond to the media. And also important things like how to look after yourself, how to look after your community, and how to practice self-care as well. Jean is a remarkable figure in this space, and I'm really excited to share her book with you all and then also with teens all over Australia. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Steph Italia. I'm the sales manager at Exisle Publishing. Thanks to the APA for having me. Really excited about the Australia Reads Indies campaign. Text are a company based in Melbourne, so I am coming to you out of my home office, so apologies. So today I'm going to speak to you about 3 books which we're really, really excited to be publishing over the next few months. The first is Olive, Mabel and Me, Life and Adventures with Two Very Good Dogs by Andrew Cotter. So this one's coming out on the 15th of October. It is a memoir. We're super excited to be publishing Andrew, who is a Scottish broadcaster who found himself with not very much sport to commentate and not very much work on at the beginning of this pandemic. And so he started filming his 2 beautiful Labradors, Olive and Mabel, and posting the videos on YouTube. To great acclaim, one of his videos has had over 40 million views. The videos are hilarious, so check them out on social media if you haven't already. He's got nearly 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. This is a memoir, and Andrew talks all about his life with his 2 dogs. So this book is perfect for dog lovers. It's perfect for sports fans. I just think it's going to make a great Christmas gift. It's really, really funny. Andrew's super engaging and it's touching, and all of that comes out in the writing. It's hilarious to read, so it's really, really great. A great book for kind of these times of social isolation. Okay, so the next book I'm going to talk to you about is It's Been a Pleasure, Noni Blake by Claire Christian. This has been one of my favourite books to read this year. I've read it 3 times. It is a complete feel-good novel. It's commercial fiction. Anyone who is a fan of Rainbow Row or Gail Honeymoon is going to love this book. So Noni finds herself single in her mid-30s. She's just broken up with her long-term partner, Joan, and she sort of goes through some of the previous relationships she's had and finds herself regretting them or regretting decisions that she's made in her 20s, because she realises that she's so much more confident in her 30s, and so she wishes that she could go back and redo her 20s with the confidence she has now. And so that makes for kind of a romp around the world, a funny tale about Noni revisiting past friends, past romantic partners, and finding love along the way. So it is a really, really funny novel. It's just, I highly recommend it. It's so funny. It'll make you cry as well. It's lovely. It's really well written. Claire is a fantastic writer. She's the author of Beautiful Mess, which is a novel for young adults, but this novel is definitely for adults only. Okay, and the third book that I wanted to speak to you guys about is Lorraine Peck's The Second Son, which we will be publishing on the 2nd of February 2021. We are so excited to be bringing you this action-packed blockbuster crime novel. We're confident it'll be the first bestseller of next year. It tells the story of Johnny Novak, whose brother Ivan Novak is shot while he's putting out his bins one morning in Western Sydney. Johnny is tasked by his gang, who's led by his father, to find Ivan's murderer and take revenge. They believe it's a rival gang in Sydney. Johnny's also pulled in another direction by his wife, Amy, and their son, Sasha. Amy's hiding a secret of her own, but is sick and tired of this crime-filled, violence-filled life and just wants to take Sasha and Johnny and make a new life somewhere else and somewhere safe. So that is all really, really gripping as it unfolds. And, you won't be able to put this one down. It's all about revenge and cultural divides and family duty, and that duty having a pretty high price. We're going to have proofs of this one. So let me know if you would like one. And Lorraine Peck is an Australian debut author. She's a fantastic writer. She's writing a sequel right now, which we will be publishing in 2022. We're just super excited about this one. So, that's The Second Son. And they're the 3 books that we're pumped to be bringing you guys in the next little while. So let me know if you've got any questions. Otherwise, thanks so much for listening. Bye.
Hi everybody, my name is Martin Hughes. I am the Publishing Director and Co-owner at Affirm Press in Melbourne. If you haven't heard of Affirm Press before, we've been going about 6 or 7 years now. We publish right across the trade, everything from baby board books to memoirs of sporting legends and military history. Basically, wherever there are readers, we want to provide them with books. And I'm delighted today to be able to give you the pick of a few of our upcoming titles. We've only got a few minutes, but these books basically pitch themselves, so that should be easy enough. The first one is an extraordinary memoir called Unseen, and it's about the secret world of chronic illness. It's from ABC broadcaster Jacinda Parsons, who is a terrific broadcaster in Victoria here and also a huge books champion. She's also lived most of her adult life with Crohn's disease. And in this extraordinary memoir, she reveals what she's had to go through living with an invisible illness. I must say, when I was reading the submission for this book, I wasn't expecting that much because I don't have a chronic illness, so why would I really care? Well, it was extraordinary because about half a dozen flashes went off in my head and I thought of people who are absolutely going to love this book. And it's no surprise to me to find out that almost half of the Australian adult population lives with a chronic illness. Here's Jacinda Parsons to tell you about this extraordinary memoir.
I might seem like I'm fine, but for the past 20 years I've been pretty much anything but fine. When I was 20, I got sick. I actually got really sick. When I eventually got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I thought that I would start to get better. but instead my life spiraled into a mess of doctors and hospitals and learning to live with the constant companion of chronic illness while trying to pretend to the world that I was fine. Just under 50% of Australians are dealing with chronic illness. You'd never think it though, because most illnesses are unseen. They're endured in secrecy and often they're misunderstood. Imagine the shame, the loss of identity, the constant reminder of your mortality when you're constantly sick in a world that is designed for the well. I hope by revealing my own challenges with chronic illness that I can give voice to at least some of the millions of Australians that are living with chronic illness, unseen and unheard.
That's Unseen by Jacinta Parsons, which will be in store from September the 29th. I have two more books for you today, and they're both for younger readers. The first one is possibly the most exciting debut that we've ever done. It's called The Grandest Bookshop in the World by a young woman called Amelia Mellor, who I'll gladly stake my reputation on it is going to be huge. This book is based on and in the famous Coles Book Arcade, which in 19th century Melbourne was a beacon of curiosity and learning and fun, and was indeed the grandest bookshop in the world. Here's Amelia to tell you about this story.
The grandest bookshop in the world is based on the famous Coles Book Arcade, which opened after the gold rush made Melbourne the world's wealthiest city. The eccentric E.W. Cole recreated the wonder he felt when he read books by turning his arcade into a literary theme park, complete with a room of illusions, talking parrots, a jungle in a glass house, and lollies galore. My novel takes place in the magical world of Coles Book Arcade. It follows the adventure of his two children, Pearl and Valley, as they try to save the book arcade from a mysterious magician with sinister intentions. But can Pearl and Valley win in this race against time with impossibly high stakes?
That was Amelia Mellor describing her book, The Grandest Bookshop in the World, out in stores from the end of September. And finally, from Affirm Press, after this grimmest of years, a Christmas present for all Australian readers. Sing Me the Summer is a stunning picture book by Alison Lester and Jane Godwin. It's quintessentially Australian. It's a celebration of the seasons. And anyone who's into books knows Alison Lester and Jane Godwin are two of the finest kids book creators ever to come from Australia. This is the first time that they've been paired together with Alison's exquisite art accompanying Jane's fantastic text. It's Sing Me the Summer. We think it's an absolute cracker, and we think it's sure to become a classic. That's it from Affirm Press, and from the whole team here, just want to wish you all the very best for the rest of 2020. Thanks a lot.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe and I'm the sales manager at the University of Queensland Press in Brisbane. I'm here to talk to you about three of my most anticipated upcoming titles. Only Happiness Here by Gabrielle Carey, Born Into This by Adam Thompson, and The Edge of 13 by Nova Weedman. First up is Only Happiness Here by Gabrielle Carey, which is a biblio-memoir that will be published in October. In this book, Carey narrates a riveting journey through the life and works of Elizabeth von Arnim, one of last century's most successful and almost forgotten female novelists. Von Arnim was completely ahead of her time in her understanding of women and their often thwarted pursuit of happiness. Born in Sydney in the mid-1800s, she went on to write many internationally best-selling novels, marry a Prussian count and then an English lord. She also developed close friendships with H.G. Wells and E.M. Forster, raised 5 children, and experienced the devastations of war. More than a biography, Only Happiness Here is also a personal investigation into our perennial obsession with finding joy. The book also features 9 key principles of happiness as inspired by von Arnim's life and books, and is ideal for readers who love feminist narratives and rediscovering lost authors. Next up is Born Into This a collection of short stories written by Adam Thompson, an emerging First Nations author from Tasmania. These stories are engaging and thought-provoking and address universal themes such as identity, racism, and heritage destruction from a wholly original perspective. The stories born into this throw light on a world of unique cultural practice and perspective, from Indigenous rangers trying to instill some pride in wayward urban teenagers, to those scraping by on the margins of white society, railroaded into complex and compromised decisions. To this mix, Thompson manages to bring humour, pathos, and occasionally a slight twist, as his characters confront racism, untimely funerals, classroom politics, and the damage and disappearance of the remnant natural world. This collection will be out in February and will appeal to fans of the short stories of Tony Birch, Tara Jean Winch, Ellen Van Nerven, and Kate Kennedy. Finally, we have The Edge of 13 by much-loved children's author Nova Wheatman. In this book, we follow 13-year-old Clem Timmins, who can't wait to see her best friends after being apart all summer holidays. Bridge is boy crazy and acting like a different person. Ellie is wearing a bra and having a real-life romance. Clem feels left behind. When she makes friends with Tom, suddenly everyone's gossiping about whether they're going to be a couple. Clem's got no interest in having a boyfriend, or so she thinks. At school camp, Bridge crosses the line and Clem has to ask herself, can she keep growing up with her friends when they're growing apart? This is a story of fitting in and falling out that expertly captures the embarrassment of puberty and the fear of being left behind. The Edge of 13 explores how it feels to balance on the edge of who you are and who you want to be, and is sure to deeply resonate with tween readers. This book will be published in March and will appeal to fans of Sick Bay, also by Nova Wheatman, Smile by Raina Telgemeier, Sensitive by Elaine L. Webster, and the novels of Judy Blume. We hope you love these books as much as we do.
Hi there, my name is Bronwyn Ely and I'm from Exisle Publishing, an independent publisher based in regional New South Wales. We specialise in adult non-fiction titles that range from health and wellness to popular psychology like Dr. Russ Harris's The Happiness Trap, history, nature and art books. And we also have a children's picture book list called EK Books. We are proud to bring quality Australian voices to the market here and offshore. And today I would like to show you two of our top picks for Christmas. The first is Celebrating Australia's Magnificent Wildlife by award-winning painter and conservationist Daryl Dixon, and Guiding Lights by social history writer Shenna Riddell. Celebrating Australia's Magnificent Wildlife is a high-quality art book which celebrates the beauty and diversity that we have right here in our own backyard. It's timely with Australians particularly tuned in right now to valuing what we have right here at home. This is a great feel-good, do-something-good celebration of Australia's wildlife everywhere. At $55, it's priced well to reach a general market as a strong gift book. Celebrating Australia's Magnificent Wildlife features the art of Daryl Dixon, whose work appears all over Australia. Daryl is known as a significant environmental figure. She has an Australia Day Award for her contribution to environmental education. In keeping with her lifelong commitment to conservation, a percentage of the royalties for this book will be donated to wildlife preservation. Her home in far north Queensland sits on the very edge of the World Heritage Tropical Wetlands and is a sanctuary for one of Australia's most endangered species, the mahogany glider. It has been one of the greatest joys of the book that Zoom calls with Daryl to always feature an assortment of furry creatures slung in crochet pouches in the background. Raised in South Australia, where she was the first woman to get a hot air balloon license, Daryl has had a bone-deep love of nature since childhood. She is unpretentious and authentic, and her deep commitment to conservation efforts will make her the perfect candidate for media interviews. The stunning images from the book are already in high demand from editors, which will ensure great media coverage. We have a raft of confirmed media, including Australian Geographic, The Australian, and Outdoor Magazine. Daryl talks about her love for the bush with passion and enthusiasm, and importantly, with real hopefulness for the future, which will ensure she is in high demand for radio, as well as a strong contender for national TV coverage. It is worth noting that in addition to being beautiful, the book is printed on sustainably sourced wood-free paper. Each spread features a unique Australian animal, and the accompanying text explains a little bit of its habitat needs and puts in context the environmental challenges the species face. It's delightful to look at and empowers readers, giving them a real sense that we have the power to positively influence the future of these beautiful animals. In addition to the hardcover edition, we also have a collector's edition available. Hand-bound in classic leatherette, each of the only 100 copies produced will be signed and numbered by the artist herself and will feature a unique illustration accompanying the signature, which will make each copy one of a kind. Retailing at $1.99, this collector's edition is the ultimate gift. We commissioned this book ahead of the devastating bushfires last year, and it is needed now more than ever. The second book I would like to do is Guiding Lights. There is something compelling and romantic about a lighthouse. They speak of romance, drama, danger, mystery, heroism, and the promise of safety. In this non-fiction title, author Shona Riddell recounts the experiences of the extraordinary lives of lighthouse women. Shona, who has a deep fascination with living in isolated locations, writes vibrantly, invoking the extraordinary courage, hardship, resilience, and stoicism of the women who made their homes in these far-flung outposts. Lighthouse women are a rare breed, and the stories in this book are charming, thrilling, and surprising. Fun fact, did you know that this was one of the first jobs with equal pay? The trials these intrepid souls confronted ranged from facing childbirth without any access to medical assistance to rowing through stormy seas to rescue sailors in peril. This sweeping narrative includes stories from around the world, including many tales from Australia's vast and often treacherous coast. Some tales are heartwarming, like that of Faye Catherine Howard Breaksea Island, Awani, Western Australia, who as a teenager communicated with the departing Anzacs as their ship left port, using Semaphore and Morse code, giving the diggers a final chance to send a message home. Some of the Australian lighthouses you will read about include Victoria's Cliffy Island and WA's Flaming Head. Media support for this book will range from specialist maritime publications to national media outlets like the ABC's Conversations with Richard Feibler. This is a wonderfully presented Christmas gift for literary types, people who love lighthouses, and of course, those interested in previously neglected stories concerning women.
Hi, my name is Louise Sherwin-Stark. I'm the CEO of Hachette Australia and New Zealand and the chair of the cross-industry committee driving the Australia Reads promotion. Australia Reads is delighted to be associated with the Indies Roadshow. Australia boasts some of the most innovative, nimble and passionate independent publishers and booksellers in the world, creating a wealth of choice of diverse, powerful, engaging books for Australian readers. Long may that continue. Australia Reads is our biggest promotion of the benefits of reading, and we're looking forward to our major event, the Australian Reading Hour, on November the 12th. Campaign planning is well underway, and we hope to leverage that Australians are reading more right now due to COVID. Let's see if we can engage with light readers and get strong reading habits formed across the country. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. You're all massive readers. But if you need a reminder about why reading is so important, please enjoy this short clip of Sally Rippon, our 2019 ambassador, visiting Mount Gambier last year.
Sally Rippon just arrived in Mount Gambier on my way to Tennyson Woods College for Australian Reading Hour, which is today, which means everyone around the country is going to take the time, at least an hour, to sit down and read a book, rediscover the joy of reading, or just keep on with the book you've already started. So I'm super excited here to meet all the kids, to chat with them about their favourite books, and just have a really great day.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to meet you. Did anybody do a little bit of reading this morning? Fantastic. I started making books when I was about your age, and I just haven't stopped. So I thought what I would do is I would tell you how I come up with ideas for my story, and maybe that will help you come up with ideas for your stories too. So I always do.
And I liked how Sally showed us the pictures.
And so you still have to do lots and lots of work on it to make it your very best work. Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed the session I had with the young kids, but I've been particularly looking forward to meeting you.
I've got all of the Billy B. Brown books. I've got the Hey Jack books.
But the other place that stories come from is your experience.
And the favourite part was when Sally was reading the book.
Thanks, Buster, Polly says. My mum never does magic anymore. Thank you so much for having me. It's been fantastic.
Say 1, 2, 3. Sally! Great.
Please take part. Encourage your authors to post on social media about why reading is important to them. Encourage booksellers and librarians to review their favourite books and make sure you tag Australia Reads so we can amplify. Most importantly, encourage everyone you know to stop what they're doing for an hour on November 12th and read a book. We hope it reminds everyone of the joys and benefits of reading. Now, back to the Australia Reads Indies Roadshow.
Big Sky Publishing is an Australian publisher some 15 years young. Our key focus is on Australian authors and Australian stories. We typically publish between 40 to 50 titles per year. Our specialty is non-fiction, historical fiction and children's. We support all our titles with national marketing and publicity campaigns, and our authors are very proactive and open to in-store signings and talks. We use Simon & Schuster as our sales team and Harper's for ordering and distribution. We have great pleasure in allowing our authors, Elizabeth Cummings and Kathy McCullough, to present their books to you today. Thank you from the Big Sky Publishing team.
Hello, my name's Elizabeth Mary Cummings and I'm a children's author as well as a primary school teacher. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to present my book Rainshaker to you. It's a book of joy and a book aimed at children for age 4 to 8. I do believe it will be a read again and again book, not only for the glorious illustrations by Sherry Hughes, but also because of the story, which is so filled with magic and the hope and the inspiration and the childlike wonder of the world that is incorporated with a wonderful sense of understanding and learning about the environment and various STEM elements such as climate change, drought, plant growth and time frames such as the life cycle of a plant. So I really do feel that this book will touch children and it will inspire them. And Erin, our protagonist, is a feisty little girl who believes in making a difference for her world. She knows that she can grow sunflowers and that these sunflowers will have minerals in them that will improve their soil. So she thinks her little bit will make a difference to her world. And I think that's a beautiful concept. I think we can all make a difference, and I think Rainshaker will make a difference to many libraries at schools and to the joy at bedtime reading with families. I hope you enjoy reading it soon.
Hello, I'm Catherine McCullough, and this is my latest book, Secrets and Showgirls. Actually, this is just a mock-up. The real deal will be out in February 2021. Now, this is a story that sits neatly in the historical fiction genre because the setting, major events and details such as what people wore and what people ate are all entirely accurate and meticulously researched. But the characters and the central plot are all fictitious, and I use them to show how people lived through an extraordinary period in history. You see, this story is set in Paris during the German occupation of World War II. And yes, there are thousands of books written about occupied Paris in World War II, but I wanted to take a different perspective. I wanted to look at occupied Paris from the bottom up, so to speak. So my story follows the trials and tribulations of a cabaret whose colourful characters have to find some way to survive, as did the famed Moulin Rouge and the Folies Bergère. The cabaret in my story is called Le Prix d'Amour, the price of love, and it's managed by the very dapper Monsieur Maurice, and features a variety of dazzling performers and, of course, the sassy, glitzy showgirls. Alongside the performers are other characters, including musicians, black marketeers, and a convent of nuns. With the threat of invasion, Monsieur Maurice decides that there is only one way that his cabaret will survive. It must play to the invader. After all, why were the Germans so keen to occupy Paris? Because this is one of the great cities of the world, almost unrivalled for its sheer sparkling glamour. And what do soldiers want? Wine, women and song. This is Maurice's tactic, and it proves so successful that the German military governor adopts Le Prix as his favourite cabaret. Maurice sighs with relief. But Maurice's relief is short-lived. He quickly discovers that there are those among his performers who hide dark secrets that could see them all arrested by the dreaded Gestapo. And as the strict rationing begins to bite, Maurice is forced to do deals with the black market, which could see him arrested by the dreaded Gestapo. On top of this, he realises that someone is spying on his cabaret, and that this someone knows far more about his performers than he does. It's a deadly mix and promises a very untidy end, unless Maurice can protect his people. So this is a story that portrays the dark tension of the occupation, but at the same time is full of the dazzling vibrancy of the cabaret. This is history, but with a sparkle at the edges. It has touches of pathos, but plenty of glittering colour. I do hope you enjoy reading this book as much as I've enjoyed writing it.
I'm Jessica McMillan, the sales manager at Black Ink Books based in Melbourne, here today to talk to you about 3 exciting upcoming new releases out in November. First up, we have The Mutant Project by Eben Kursky, who's an American social anthropologist usually based in Australia. In The Mutant Project, instead of just a straight science book, what he's done is he's gone and got case studies from all around the world about how gene editing has affected people and how they've been using it. It's actually been used for decades in countries like the US and the UK in terms of research, and there's been activists both pro and against it for many years. And in China just recently is where this book has been originated, when we had the first successful gene editing in young live babies. The first successful case of gene editing was actually pro in that it was trying to stop these 2 young girls getting HIV from their parents. This book looks at why gene editing affects us as people and not just what the science and the laws around it. It looks at why we need to pay attention to it and what we need to do to ensure that the future generation of gene editors are adhering to what we as a society think is acceptable. It's a really intriguing read with humour along the way, with his timeline starting with Frankenstein as the first gene editing in existence. Eben brings a new perspective on this issue and shows why it's still so important today. Next up, we have The Factory 19 by Dennis Glover, an irreverent writer who brings his humour to the fore in this book. He has a real love for anything George Orwell, which we see throughout this book, and if you're an Orwell fan, you'll find many little quirks along the way that will reference his work. But it shows how we as a society are developing, becoming dependent on technology, everyone needing to be available 24/7, how this is leading to a lot of burnt out in a lot of people. This book is set in the future, but then travels back in people's minds, not in actual time, to a world that's set in 1948. This book looks at, is there a golden era? And if there is, should we maintain it? It asks a lot of moral questions, but has a lot of humour along the way. If you love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or anything with that quirky sense of humour, this will be the book for you this year. It's a real great escapism from the world, considering the plight of everything at the moment. It takes us out of where we are and shows us that we need to make the best of things anyway. Lastly, we have Watsonia, collection of Don Watson's work. This is largely curated by Don himself and shows his journey from being a starting writer back many decades ago. and to the great Australian writer we all know and love today. Donna's gone to the National Archives and found a lot of his work. He's found speeches that people haven't heard for a while, and has also got his up-to-date modern work. Donna's quite a self-effacing Australian writer, as many of them are, but this really shows why he's one of the best and why he continues to be such a strong voice in the field. Well, that's it from us. I hope you enjoy our books and have a great year. Thanks, Jess.
Hello, my name is Johanna Perheentupa, and I'm going to introduce my book, Redfern, Aboriginal Activism in the 1970s. It's published with Aboriginal Studies Press, which is the publishing arm of the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies, or AIATSIS, that focuses exclusively on the diverse history, cultures and heritage of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australia. Redfern tells the history or the story of a group of Aboriginal intellectuals and ambitious young radicals who set about fulfilling their dreams in the rundown inner Sydney suburb of Redfern. At the time, Redfern had become a gathering place for Aboriginal people who had fled poverty and segregation in rural Australia in the 1950s and 60s. In the city, they were met with discrimination in housing, health and education, as well as intense police harassment. And in response to these problems, in just 3 years, they set up an Aboriginal health service, housing cooperative, legal service, childcare centre, and a black theatre in Redfern. Aboriginal activists drew support from the university campuses in Sydney and from among the social radicals of the time, but also professionals working as doctors, lawyers, and educators. Once the Whitlam Labor government came to power, they also had the promise of self-determination, and as the activists saw it, the right for Aboriginal people to control their own lives, politically, economically, and culturally. With this book, I was keen to make more widely available this fascinating history of Aboriginal activism in Redfern in the 1970s. The 1970s in Redfern are such a vital part of not only the story of Aboriginal activism, but also the relations between First Nations peoples and the Australian governments, and Australian history more widely. The activism of the 1970s amplified the continuing demand for Aboriginal control and self-determination. And these organisations, or community services, provided culturally appropriate services for Aboriginal people by Aboriginal people for the first time. But they also became new channels to pursue Aboriginal control and self-determination and served as platforms for cultural revival, or as it was then described, Black or Aboriginal Renaissance, particularly the Black Theatre in Redfern. And this great cover image in the book is from one of their shows. Importantly, many of these organisations served as models for similar organisations all over Australia. And in this book, I wanted to paint the picture of the multifaceted face of Redfern activism, to bring together in one book the histories of the different Aboriginal organisations in Redfern, the Aboriginal Legal and Medical Services, the Black Theatre, Marawina, and Aboriginal Housing Company. And I wanted to write about the way in which each organisation had a slightly different struggle, different story to tell, although they all came together in their fight for self-determination and Aboriginal rights. My background is in history. I research Australian Indigenous politics and advocacy for social change and the engagement with settler colonial society and governments. Although I have years of experience in this field and I teach Indigenous studies at UNSW Sydney, I grew up in Finland. And I believe this background inevitably influences my research and the way I write about Australian and Indigenous histories. The readership of this book, I think, is among the interested university academics and students, postgraduate or advanced undergraduate, who work on the fields of Indigenous and Aboriginal studies, politics and law, or social science, cultural studies, Indigenous health, Australian history, but also general readership with an interest in history, politics and cultural studies, or cultural studies. The key points about my book are that although this period of 1970s activism in Redfern is so significant, it has not been studied before. And this book, Redfern, captures the diversity of Aboriginal activism in Redfern, which is still so relevant today. And it examines the tension brought by the different approaches to self-determination by Aboriginal activists and the federal governments. And this research is based on DAA records of a correspondence between Aboriginal organisations and federal government representatives of the time. Today, Redfern remains contested ground. Some celebrate Redfern as the birthplace of Aboriginal self-determination, but for others it symbolises its failure. Redfern is also a topical book in the context of Indigenous voice to Parliament, in looking at earlier Indigenous attempts to take control of and to have an input in Aboriginal affairs, but also in the context of Black Lives Matter, in that it portrays the struggle of Aboriginal movement against police violence in inner Sydney's suburb of Redfern in the 1970s. The book's available now. It was released on the 1st of September. It costs $39.95 plus postage, or you can collect for free from the AIATSIS building in Canberra.
G'day, I'm Henry Rosenblum, the founder and publisher of Scribe, which, as you know, is based in Melbourne, been in existence theoretically since 1976. And I want to talk to you about a couple of important books that we're publishing soon. The first of them is what is, I think, legitimately called a long-awaited book by Barry Jones, one of Australia's national living treasures. This book is a sequel to Sleeper's Wake, which was originally published in 1982, and it's called What is to Be Done. The subtitle is Political Engagement and Saving the Planet. Barry is extraordinary, as you all know, greatly loved, a polymath, and this book is extraordinary in the breadth of its range and the seriousness of its concerns. It's essentially dealing with the threats to us all in this era of fake news, so-called fake news, greatly challenging climate developments, the problems with democracy, the lack of political engagement by citizens, and the worsening crises on a number of fronts. This book has already attracted extraordinary advanced praise from people like Julia Gillard and Michael Kirby, and we think there'll be enormous interest in it. Barry is a person who has managed to retain the interest of generations and of politicians and activists on all sides of the political spectrum, and we think there'll be enormous interest in what is to be done. It's appearing in November this year, and we're doing it, of course, as a trade paperback, which we hope will be a popular format and will reinforce its appeal. The next book I want to talk to you about is a German diet book of all things called The Diet Compass by Bas Kast. This is a really remarkable book which we're publishing in January this year. It was originated, as I say, in Germany. It's already sold over 1 million copies there. It's been licensed to many, many countries around the world, and we're its English language publisher. We commissioned the translation and edited it. And one of the reasons it's so extraordinary is because the author, who was a science journalist with science background, was a very fit young man who one day, while out on a run, suddenly collapsed and couldn't understand what had happened to him. He was meant to be in the prime of his life. And he discovered that he'd been doing a lot of things wrong with his lifestyle, especially his diet. And being the kind of person he was, decided to trawl through the world's medical research and medical literature to find out what experts understood about what human beings needed to look after themselves. So what he's in fact done is an extraordinary amount of meta-analysis and research to produce what he's ended up calling 12 tips to help people live a healthy life and to live a long life. They're real, they're based, as I say, on actual research, they've stood the test of time, and they've already proved enormously popular in his home country and in many countries around the world. We're very proud to be producing this book. We have a strong popular science and popular health list, as you know. We think this is an important addition to it. It would be great if it did as well as Gut, the other famous German popular science and popular health book that we also brought to the world, as you know. We think there will be enormous interest in it, particularly in a post-pandemic environment, and we look forward to publishing it in January 2021.
Hi everyone, I'm Chloe from Fremantle Press, and I'm joined here today with Rebecca Higgy, the host of the Fremantle Press podcast and also the author of The History of Mischief. And we're going to be talking to you about our summer titles, books that we are very much in love with and we think that you also love as well. We're going to start off with Let's Count Wildflowers. It's a board book for 0+ and it's a counting book. So the beautiful thing about this one is it's designed and illustrated by Tracy Gibbs, who's very passionate about Australiana wildlife and native flowers. And throughout the book, while your children will learn how to count, they'll also get to see the beautiful illustrations which have been screen printed here in a studio in Perth. It features benches, kangaroo paws, really iconic Australian wildlife that will be a great way to introduce them to your babies or to your children, as well as then teaching them how to count at the same time.
Yeah, this is a perfect book for Bubs. This is actually my favourite book for little ones at the moment. My son loves this book. He's 1.5. He can turn the pages himself. The colours are so beautiful and vibrant. The rhyme scheme is really charming. I've even invented a little song that goes along with the rhyme. I really can't recommend this title enough for your little one. It's just, you know, the perfect thing to read just before bed, or even if you want to sing the rhyme ridiculously, it's perfect for the day as well.
Wonderful. And then we also have Little Zhang. Little Zhang is written by Shirley Ma, own voice Chinese Australian author, and has illustrations in it from Katie Zhang herself. It is a fantastic book with hopping zombies. It is set here in Honeywood, which is actually a suburb here in Perth. No hopping zombies are there, we have confirmed that. But it's a fresh take on an old Chinese legend, which is just a whole heap of fun.
Yeah, I really loved reading this book. It's just action from the first page to the last page. It's heartwarming. It's also ridiculous. It's going to make you laugh. The pictures are really complement the story as well. I really can't also recommend this one highly enough. It's just fun, silly, but also really warms your heart as well.
And lastly, we have Chickensaurus by James Foley. It is the 4th book in the S. Tinker series, and it is everything that you would expect from a James Foley graphic novel. There is chickens, there's dinosaurs, and there's a whole heap of puns. Almost a dozen plus. It's one of those books that make you laugh the whole time as you're reading it. It's got a great mix of science and humour, so there's something for the kids and there's also something from the adults if they're going through it with their children as well. And it's something where the whole time you're wondering how he could possibly write as many egg puns as he has. Please have fun in counting them all. We have lost track as we were going through it, but it's something that we think is fun for the family.
I actually haven't had a chance to read this one yet, but I'm looking forward to it because I love James Foley. Everything he produces is so funny, and the illustrations are just so, they just capture you. I'm just looking at it now. They're just it's a perfect graphic novel. If you've got a reader who maybe isn't as enthusiastic, isn't going to pick up a big book like this, they will pick this up, they will love it. It's a perfect book, just also for fun, but also as a gateway into other books.
A lovely gateway book.
Absolutely.
That's all from us. We hope you enjoyed the titles. We hope that they are titles that you fall in love with just as much as we have. And good luck. We can't wait to see them on your bookshelves.
Well, that's it from all of us. Please do let us know if you want reading copies of any of the books by emailing office@publishers.asn.au. And finally, a huge thanks to all the people at Australia Reads for lending their support to this event. Good luck for the remainder of the year. Bye for now.